everyone. I'm here to talk to you about Sauk County's road to the ArcGIS Pro Parcel Fabric. And as we all know, every road isn't smooth or easy, but I'll kind of give you a little brief overview of what I'm going to talk about today, give you a little introduction about Sauk County and our departments, some of our land records departments, and then help you maybe understand our parcel mapping history, why we transitioned into the Pro Parcel Fabric, some of our transition process, improvements that we saw in our efficiency and workflow, and some of the procedures and planning that we did. So first, I'll introduce our Land Information Office. That's us, all of us, except for one of our staff who couldn't make it that day. We went this fall to Devil's Lake, and if you've ever been, it's beautiful in the fall, and this fall was amazing throughout the months of September and October especially. I think this was early October, actually. So our office specifically comprises a GIS coordinator, myself a cartographer LAO, we have 2 GIS analysts, a real property lister, and real property specialist. And up until a couple of years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, I think maybe, we were a separate office GIS, and we just had 4 of us. And then we brought, we actually had one of our analysts working with the treasurer's office. It's kind of an interesting mix in 2 separate offices. And so then through some of the processes and some of the things I'm actually going to discuss today, we took on those real property positions into our actual department, which has really helped us immensely. And as part of our land records departments as a whole, that includes our department plus land resources and environment, which comprises land conservation, parks and recreation, planning and zoning. And then we also have treasurer's office, our county surveyor, and our register of deeds. All of us comprise the bulk of everything from a parcel getting, or actually a document getting recorded and creating a parcel, and all the work that goes along with that at these various departments. So a little overview of Sauk County. This is a map, and I wish I could remember the year. It's 1800 something map. Actually, I think it's early 1900s. I think it's 1913 now that I'm thinking about it. Our population in Sauk County for the 2020 census is 65,000. Pretty rural, pretty small, but a lot of activity, a lot of tourism in the area, a lot of condos. If it wasn't for the condos, we wouldn't have much of a land information program at one point, especially. The county seat with that star there is Baraboo, and we're about 849 square miles. Our primary focus has always been to have accurate parcel maps. They're the core of everything we do. Land ownership, management, tax assessment, and public services, along with urban and rural land development planning, are all reliant on these parcels and the subsequent data layers being accurate and up to date. So early parcel mapping efforts kind of just roughly put them into 2 kind of pots and categories. The pre-GIS, sort of before the mid-1990s. And then after that was a transition into GIS from the late 1990s to the 2010s and present. Early maps were paper-based, manually updated, which meant time-consuming processes and a lot of issues with errors in the processes. Once transitioning to GIS, mapping took a new form. The software evolved from command line AutoCAD to more robust AutoCAD mapping in the mid-1990s. Adoption of the ArcMap and ArcGIS desktops brought new ways for us to think about the data, and we had the ability to use topology rules at the time for digital parcel mapping. From 2013 to 2023, we were maintaining our parcel data in the ArcMap Parcel Fabric. So that was about 10 years. And with each of these changes and innovations came challenges. We had issues with fragmented data from time to time, maintenance and inefficiencies in updating parcels. Just an interesting side note for those of you with regards to this slide in particular, If you're not familiar with the Leroy lettering set, it was a common used thing back in the day. And when I first started in Sauk County, I actually was given one on my first day of work in 1996. But needless to say, from 1980 to 1996, parcel maps were drawn using the Leroy set in Sauk County, but I never touched it except to look at it. And in fact, I'm pretty sure there's a thing of ink somewhere in our office that's all dried up. But the Leroy set is still intact. And I am kind of proud to say, as a UW-Whitewater graduate, that I was actually the last class in 1994 to actually take hand-drawn mapping. And so I was really relieved when I was able to do GIS and digital mapping as opposed to having to do hand-drawn. I was not good at that at all. And just as another side note, in the lower left-hand corner is a picture of William H. Canfield. He was one of the first surveyors to the Sauk County area, and he did a majority of the Sauk County resurveys from like the 1840s to the mid-1850s. And he is the first surveyor in Sauk County to actually record his survey work, and that was on July 6th, 1849. So nice little piece of history. So why change? What led us to change? And what were some of the challenges there before working in the parcel fabric? Data management issues, duplicate records and inconsistent topology, manual adjustments for edits were arduous at times, workflow inefficiencies and parcel adjustments were time consuming. Gaps, overlaps, and other inconsistencies in data cause conflicts, and such as data import errors or conflicting edits across different layers. And integration issues, difficulty integrating survey data seamlessly and limited automation for updates. The transition. What was the driving decision to move to the ArcGIS Pro Parcel Fabric? First and foremost, we wanted better data integrity and increased efficiency. And we liked the use and the abilities with the least square adjustment tools within the Pro Parcel Fabric. We saw the benefits of enhanced automation processes, and we were already utilizing traditional versioning in ArcMap, so the branch versioning in Pro was fairly seamless. And we saw the ability for better performance with a multi-user editing environment. The keys for us were to streamline our workflows, reduce the effort in parcel maintenance, and improve our spatial accuracy. Migrating to the Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro, our migration, first we sought assistance from Panda Consulting. Working with Frank Conkling, he helped us find ways for us to migrate our data. We wanted to be hands-on as much as possible, but we were also wanted to limit our downtime going through the process because we knew it could be pretty arduous. And we went through a lot of cleanup. These boards kind of display during our transition process. We actually would write down where we were and in the process of various things. And it's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see that we had a list of dates from July, end of July to August into September, and I believe November down in there. And those are when, after we actually migrated and trying to get caught up with our old edits and other things. Plus we had work we were trying to accomplish along the way after migration was complete. So it was important to look at our data in a new way, and by doing that, we could see and understand how we wanted to move forward. Step by step, we moved through these processes that we came up with Frank, cleaning up the topology, then conversion of the actual parcels themselves was done by Frank, and he worked with us in creating different rules and such. We were in constant contact with him and were part of the process all along the way. We talked for many months prior to the actual migration work and first met as a full group in June of 2023 to start our training in the new software. All the meetings and trainings were virtual, and we met continuously throughout the stages of this work. So what changed for us after the transition? Some of the key changes after transition were improved data accuracy. through the enhanced spatial adjustments with survey grade precision. Errors were minimized with regards to the parcel alignments, and we found we had much more efficient editing processes and a variety of tools to use to get those things done. We experienced faster parcel splits, mergers, and adjustments, and the automation of previously manual steps allowed for better data integration. And it was easier to incorporate control points and the COGO coordinate geometry. We have eliminated the use of annotation and integrated dimensions into labels. We used Anno for approximately about a year after the migration to have a little bit better control of the placements of our text. However, we realized with Anno, it took time to place and adjust each edit. We are now using labeling going forward, and we haven't given it a second thought because it does a very good job of rendering within our online GIS. Time and resources. Before ArcGIS Pro, edits took much more time, and frequently we were troubleshooting errors or issues with our topology. After migration to the Pro Parcel Fabric, we had a 3-month downtime from total start to finish of our training, our conversion, and all of our staff that were doing this to learn the different tools, and the backlog that kind of came with that, with the edits not being done while we were in training. But after we got back to working on our edits, within a month of starting in Pro officially, we were able to make up that backlog. We were ahead of work from the previous year, and 2023 had seen more edits and more changes that needed to be done compared to the previous year at the very same time. So that, in our estimation, made up for everything in the struggles that we saw. So we were able to be up and running and productive right away. Automated adjustments such as attribute rules really reduced our parcel edit and maintenance time by approximately half compared to our old ways of doing things. Attribute rules, we set up attribute rules to save time when editing and keep our data consistent. The attribute rules related to records and tax parcels are just a few of the rules we set up. And when creating a tax parcel, an attribute rule for us is triggered to the naming of a tax parcel, and it populates, for instance, the 3-digit muni code that we have that precedes the field for the parcel number. And that is huge. It seems like a small thing, but those little tasks really added up for us in saving us time and effort. We utilized the recorded date in a record to populate the legal start date of a related record that's created from this, such as tax parcel, sublot, etc. Also, we use that same recorded date within a record to populate the legal end date of the feature when we retire a parcel by that same record. So it kind of does a couple different things all at once as it's running through these attribute rules. We use branch versioning, and it is an effective and efficient way to allow for multi-user editing. It has a simplified version hierarchy, allowing only one level of named versions to be created from the default. You create a version from the main default version, and you do your edits within that branched version. That version can be worked in, used to process any number of edits and that you want, and then you can reconcile it against the default version to check for any possible conflicts. Then you can post that version to the default to see those changes within that default. If, however, there are issues that you encounter along the way, you can look at it and just decide to scrap the changes you made in the version and simply delete it without even affecting or without having to affect the main default version. We utilize branch versioning along with a data review QA/QC process. The QA/QC is where an editor will take the initial edits followed up by a quality checker. Somebody will review those and possibly flag any potential issues or corrections that need to be made. And then it might go back to the original editor. They will do the corrections, and then it will go through the QA/QC, and then we can rec and post. And then this process has improved our data and how we work as a whole with our parcel edits. Process enhancements. Parcel Fabric has tool sets that allow for direct input of legal descriptions, no matter the form, meets and bounds of full legal survey distances. And that's one thing that we really love with the Parcel Fabric. It's a variety of tools that are available to us. And an integrated multi-department, departmental tasks. We were integrating multiple departments into our task capabilities. And this slide here and the next two kind of show you our spreadsheet that we created to input edits, and it helped between multiple departments that are working on these. Primarily, to start, it was the real property listers and us GIS mappers, parcel mappers, and trying to get the flow of how these edits come in and how the documents kind of trigger the process. And then with our work, we create a record and process those changes. And it's kept us on target. We now see what percentage of parcels are completed as we're going along, and it's really helped us working with the various departments and seeing where everybody is and keeping everybody on task as well. And this spreadsheet is driven by the document recording and the parcel creation. So here's just another view, and it kind of shows how we enter. You see the far left column. We just kind of start at one, and we add in all the information that is possible with these edits, and then the real property lister will enter all this information, and then we actually create a document. They create a document for us mappers to work off of, to look at how the changes are proposed. And then we create a version, which the versions are listed there in the GIS version name. And then somebody, after those are ready for QC, somebody goes in and QCs those. And then that is shown further down. And we've now added addressing with this. When addresses are triggered or a new address is created, we verify that that's been checked, that the address is accurate. And that's kind of kept us all on task. And we've continued to add to this. We're hoping to add some more tasks for the Land Resource and Environment Department. They've got a permitting and violation software they moved to OpenGov. And we're hoping to be able to take the work that they're going to need to do to take their old parcels into the new parcels through the OpenGov platform and utilizing this spreadsheet to go through that process as well and expand on it. Lessons that we learned from the migration process. There were challenges for us during the process, and we learned a ton about our data and the way we had been working with our data and the processes and the changes. Change is never easy, but we learned along the way that as much as we thought we knew about our data, we learned so much more on what we could do with it. Through the training and meetings, we were able to learn the new workflows, work through the processes, and both individually and collectively work through the migration. It made us look at our work in a finer detail and helped us work as a team to get everyone comfortable with working in Pro. And while we were going through the training, it was really essential to work with a team and go back and forth and troubleshoot. We found all kinds of ways of going through these workflows and figuring out what worked for all of us and what made sense and fine-tuning those, and that was immeasurable. So what's next for Sauk County? Our future plans call for expanding our GIS capabilities, hopefully integrating 3D parcel visualization, enabling mobile access for those doing field work, and expand the offices that are using the technologies. We want to enhance public access to our data and resources. We have over a dozen applications currently that are available on our website, and we plan to add interactive parcel viewers for residents, along with improved online tax and assessment tools. The ideas are endless. There's so many things that we know that we can and will and want to use these software and our technologies with ArcGIS Online and more. The ideas are endless, and our hope is to have the time and the resources to be able to create those kinds of applications. So key takeaways. The Parcel Fabric has significantly improved our efficiency. Data accuracy and workflow consistency have been enhanced. and the future development will focus on public engagement and GIS expansion. And just some final thoughts. First, I would highly recommend that you get a consultant, especially one like Frank. He's been immeasurable for what we've done to assist you and help you through all the stages that you will need to go through. He was invaluable and continues to be a resource to this day. It may seem scary to change what you have been doing for years, but the jump from ArcMap Parcel Fabric to the Pro Parcel Fabric for us breathed new life into our staff. Once you get past the learning curves and the fear of change for some of us, and figuring out where things are located, it really became just like second nature. Like, I was one of the first that just said, I'm never looking back. And we had other staff that had to, for various reasons, use the software, and they were begrudgingly sometimes like, I want to just go to it totally, but they had other things they had to maintain. So I was fortunate. I never touched it again and never missed ArcMap, and I've never looked back. It created new challenges for us and helped us grow and learn, and as I said, we kind of breathed new life. We all got excited about what we were creating. And as I said, with the new challenges, you need to update your processes that you have been doing relatively seamless for years. Sometimes it seems like everything's just going status quo is all fine, but these new changes and innovations have helped us grow our data and make it better. However, the one thing that stood out to us was the actual rekindled spirit in our staff. I know for myself, I was energized. I've always enjoyed my job and loving coming to work, but it really brought on a new change in attitude in how we did things. We became invigorated and continued to work to make our data and processes better. And just as final note, this is my cat Willow. These are actually pictures from during the pandemic when I was working from home. And if anybody knows Frank Conkling, the one to the left is Frank there in the little inset. He was doing a workshop. She really loves Frank, so that was kind of fun. And as you know, all cats love maps, so. All right, and with that, we do have a little bit of time for some questions, if there are any. Yeah, Doug.
Kelly, what were some of your key cleanup items that you had to do before you migrated?
Before we migrated, parcels, just as a whole, annotation. Annotation was a big thing, just looking at what we had. One of the biggest, and Joe, chime in if there's something I'm missing, and obviously addressing and other things, but with our parcel lines and looking at them. And also I think I kind of remember that we had we thought the parcels and like, let's say the subdivisions and everything kind of matched. They looked okay, right? We learned a lot about how things weren't exactly on top of each other. And if you think about it, what I said before about coming from a CAD environment, CAD does it to a certain degree, and then ArcMap, we thought we cleaned it up going into ArcMap pretty well, and then yet you still have trailer stuff, densified curves, stuff like that, really stood out to us, and we noticed that kind of thing. It was a bunch of weeks in June that we were sitting there diving through the data, and then Frank would run something and then send it back to us, and we'd look at it and see what we needed to clean up and do. And it, like I said, it opened up our eyes because there was a lot of things that we thought, that layer's got to be good, right? And there was work to be done, and there still is. We're still, fine-tuning some of our data sets, especially countywide.
Yeah, so it's pretty much standard type of cleanup stuff with your non surveys and CSMs and things like that, where you identify the plans. Do you have a generic map plan for the rest of the stuff? Did that cause any issues with the migration?
No, because going forward, what we did, we went through a process to take the plans that we had, the plans in ArcMap, and take those and convert those into the record format for Pro. But that was done on the backside with Frank's help. And then going forward, we just took the records and created the records for each individual, task that we do. Every time we do a task, a record is created, whether it has a survey or not. So it's record-driven versus the ArcMap formula.
Yes. So basically, like Frank handled it, there was some issues with the fact that you had like a map plan for the majority of stuff. I've heard there's some issues that possibly if you've got, it has a certain limitation of how many of those pieces can come through from that plan, that given plan is designated too. So.
Oh, okay. Ours weren't, I know there were plans that people could do that were a little more intense, and I don't know if you could attach things to them, but we didn't have those. Ours were pretty straightforward and simple and had just the basic things off of a survey, so to speak. Yeah?
Do you put any intelligence into your record names?
Our record names are based on the document. It's pretty much driven strictly by the document, yeah. Or sometimes, well, no, it's almost always the document. There are times that we'll create a record to do something and it doesn't necessarily have a document per se. It might have a plat of survey, so that's not same as like a deed or something, but yeah, something along those lines.
So pretty much document number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, subdivision name or something like that.
Just did ours, so we're stealing some of your stuff.
Sweet. Yeah, and if I didn't mention it before, and I meant to, as far as the training we got, when we met, we did training virtually. And so we met face-to-face and face-to-face through virtual, on a regular basis. We probably did it twice a week, every week for 2 months. And then we'd meet intermittently for meetings and to catch up and get on task and talk about and troubleshoot and so forth. And the cool thing was that Frank saved all those for us, and we still have them, and so we can go back. We can look at them if we forget or somebody hasn't touched, because we have a couple people that don't do mapping all the time, and one person that's coming into the fold of doing more mapping. So those are going to be invaluable going forward, and we'd be glad to share them with anybody too. All right. Well, thank you.